Sunday.
Good evening, everyone. I'm calling tonight's meeting of the Falmouth Planning Board to order. Today is, what's that date?
August 26th.
August 26th, and 6:30 p.m., and we are meeting at Falmouth Town Hall. My name is John Drewley. I am the current chair of the Planning Board. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone this is a public meeting and is being conducted in accordance with the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law. Please take a moment to silence any mobile devices or electronics to avoid interruptions. Anyone wishing to speak should come to the podium, wait to be recognized by the chair, and state their name for the record before making remarks. We encourage respectful and constructive dialogue during public comment periods. Thank you. We will now proceed to the first item on the agenda, which is public comment. If anyone wishes to speak about something that is not on the agenda, please come to the podium, state your name. And since we don't have anyone in the audience right now, we'll just go forward. All right, so minutes?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve the August 12th, 2025 minutes as presented.
Thank you.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. And we have a public meeting. Jed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the applicant, they have requested, so this is for the site plan review for the 5-unit multifamily building at 683 Main Street. There's a site plan review application as well as a special permit. The applicant has requested a continuance of both of those applications to the board's next meeting, which is September 9th. And they've also asked for an extension to your decision deadline for your site plan review application. And they're asking that extension to be granted to September 31st, 2025.
Can I ask what the holdup seems to be?
They are working through edits to the drainage plan.
Oh, okay, so it's not us, it's,
Correct.
okay.
Correct.
I move that we accept the applicant's request to extend to the next meeting, and also that they will extend the deadline for our decision.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Just, I realize the drainage in that area can be very difficult. That lot's perfectly flat, and everything else runs like this, and I've seen runoff coming. It's really a mess, and I'm glad they're taking the time to do it right.
Okay, good. Any other comments?
If I may, just a clerical error. There are only 30 days in September, so the extension of the decision deadline is to September 30th, not September 31st. Thank you.
Get kicked?
As corrected.
That's what happens when you're typing quickly.
All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. The next thing on our agenda this evening is Planning Board Fall 2025 Town Meeting zoning articles. And Town Planner Jed will present them to us.
Thank you, Mr.
Again?
Chairman. For the record, Jed Cornock, Town Planner, Community Development Director, extraordinaire of many things. So I have the presentation from the first Planning Board meeting, which I can go through with you. So what we've done is, as you know, there are 5 zoning articles for which you opened a public hearing on August 12th. And they include, on the screen, these 5 amendments. And so if you'll indulge me, I'll just go through them briefly. I'm going to skip over the item number 3 because there's a separate presentation, because we have a new version for you to consider this evening of the accessory dwelling unit bylaw amendments. So I will cover 1, 2, 4, and 5 very briefly. If there's any questions, we can cover those, and then I'll just move into the accessory dwelling unit portion. So first and foremost, the first amendment that you are seeking to bring to town meeting is the, as shown up on the screen, the deletion of item number 2 under 245.1C, which is your prohibited uses and special permit allowances section. Essentially, as we discussed at the last meeting, this deletion of item number 2 will essentially make it very clear that an applicant isn't allowed to seek a special permit for a use that is prohibited within the use table from the Zoning Board of Appeals. They would first have to get a determination from the building commissioner, as is included in statute. And if they oppose that, or if they disagree with that, they can simply go to the Zoning Board of Appeals with an appeal of the building commissioner's determination. So this cleans up the process that already exists. However, this language simply allowed a workaround that we seek to eliminate.
Jed, we had said last time, the title there, cross out "and special permit allowance," because,
Yes, this one here.
yes,
So, Pat, you're excellent, Eagle Eye. This component here would also be crossed out in the town meeting article because, again, this section will only deal with prohibited uses. So essentially, item number 1 says if it's not listed within the use table, it's a prohibited use. Item number 2 allowed that workaround, so we're trying to get rid of that.
It is crossed out on our documents, but not on the
Yeah,
screen.
Correct, not on the screen. Questions, comments on that?
I'm just concerned, I know I brought this up last time, and you said, well, there's always the ability to appeal it, but no one's ever going to know that you could make the argument that there's a considerable use that's like it, and you could challenge it, and you might win. We're just shutting it down and saying this is the way it's at, period.
Yeah, because that's the way it's supposed to work.
Who brought up this in the first place? Why is it there?
So we found this when we were doing the recodification, because we've been going through the zoning bylaw and trying to find duplications, errors, et cetera, and we found this clause, and it seemed odd to us at the time that you would allow another option to create a use that's already prohibited, or to allow a use that's already prohibited.
Well, allow a use that's already existed someplace else. It's already been approved in the past. It's a little bit hard saying, I mean, I just wonder why the planning board in the past put it in the first place.
Me too.
Was it a mistake, or was it because they wanted to be more flexible?
I do not know.
That's my worry.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a point. When someone does get now a determination from the building commissioner, he, in his determination letter, tells them their right to appeal and tells them the process.
Solves my problem right
So,
there. As
yeah.
long as that is part of the process,
Yeah.
I'm okay
Yep,
with.
yep.
Great point.
That's very good.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. So this second amendment, as we discussed at the last meeting, is related to the Attorney General's approval of our first accessory dwelling unit set of changes that we made post the Affordable Homes Act. The Attorney General indicated that whenever you have or you allow single-family homes within a certain zoning district, you also need to allow by right an accessory dwelling unit. And we did not include it in the business table initially. So this will clean up the omission that we had from the previous set of amendments. So again, all it's doing is just allowing an accessory dwelling unit by right, only one, within each one of the zoning districts of the business district, because they currently allow single-family homes. Questions?
Is it clear that if they have 4 single-family homes in the district, only one of them gets it, or is it all 4 have the right to do it?
We're going to put a pin in that, and we're going to talk about that in the
Fine.
accessory dwelling unit
Fine.
section when
I
we get
just
to it.
didn't want to blow by it without.
Sure. Okay, so this is the fourth one. So again, this is simply just, as I mentioned before, when we were going through the zoning bylaw, people have brought this to our attention, that in the maximum building height and stories table in section 240.11.5A, we have these 2 records, these overlay districts, which more importantly, in the search and rescue overlay district, it creates confusion. It simply states, and if you were reading just the table and not the language within the bylaw, someone might assume that you could have a building height of 100 feet, which is not the case. There is a prohibition in the search and overlay district of not having a building that would exceed 100 feet, traditionally cell towers. But we wanted to make sure that this language is omitted from the table, but still included within the overlay districts in a different section of the bylaw. So again, just trying to clean things up. If you'd like, I can show you where that language exists. But it's not that we're removing anything from the bylaw itself. We're just simply removing it from the table in section 11. The overlay districts, I don't know why this is advancing. The overlay districts are within Article 7, and all of the information is still there. Through you, Paul.
Oh, sorry.
When you delete that table in the maximum height, will there something to replace it?
So let me just show you what it looks like now. I think it's a good idea. So in 11, maximum height, here's the table that I'm referring to. So as you know, within the zoning bylaw, the maximum building height in town, for the most part, is 35 feet. So, as you're reading this table, it's clear that you can't exceed 35 feet, but then all of a sudden you get down to the search and rescue overlay district and it says 100. So one might assume that you could have a building up to 100 feet tall, and that's not what the overlay district says. It says you cannot go over 100, but you're still at a 35-foot building height within the entire town. So it's just a duplication. So what the proposal is to do is eliminate these two rows, and then I'm going to jump to 7, Article 7, where the actual language exists. Search and rescue. Here we go. So here is the actual language. So we're not proposing to eliminate this language. This language will stay, but in the table, we'll eliminate those two overlay districts. I can try to blow that up. How much?
Thank you.
So that'll all stay. So there'll still be a restriction on going over 100 feet. It just won't be confusing within that use table. And so just to further emphasize the point,
Yeah, so.
in section 11, if we were to truly continue to use the maximum height table, what we would do is we would add the mixed residential and commercial overlay district. But as you remember, there are 3 allowable building heights within that district. There's 35 feet town-wide, there's 40 feet for properties that are over 2 acres, and then there's 50 feet for properties that are over 5 acres. So again, we wouldn't necessarily add all of that information to this table because it would simply be confusing. So as an applicant, if they're applying within the mixed residential and commercial overlay district, all of the regulations are found within that section of the bylaw, not spread out throughout the bylaw, just in one area. So that's why we propose to eliminate these 2 overlay district languages, because that information's already found somewhere else.
And this cleans it right up.
Cleans it up.
John,
Yes,
follow on.
sure, go ahead.
Since this article as written goes before the town meeting, would it be appropriate to make a reference that the height is referred to in section 240 like as part of the article?
Yes. So what we'll do.
Now it says it's gone.
Yep.
Doesn't say where to look for it.
What we'll do is we'll write that up in the recommendation. So as you know, you've got the article language, you've got the explanation and the recommendation. Sorry, it's the reverse. We'll put it into the explanation so that it's nice and clear for town meeting members.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Paul. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay. And the last item is 240, I won't maximize that, 240.11.5B. Again, the amendment as shown on the screen is to strike 240.11.5B, 2B, So this language right where my cursor is, no accessory apartment shall be allowed. And again, that's in direct conflict with state law currently, the Affordable Homes Act. So we need to make sure that that language doesn't exist in the bylaw, because you cannot prohibit an accessory apartment or accessory dwelling unit in that way.
How are they defining accessory structures? I mean, is that garages, barns, sheds?
It's a good question. So yes, accessory building is defined in our bylaw, and I can pull it up if you want.
So it's accessory building and is different from accessory structure then?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So as I'm reminded regularly, an accessory building, as you can see up on the screen, is a garage or a shed located on the same lot. As you can see, I'm not going to read the verbiage for you, but an accessory structure could be a swimming pool, which is not a building. So those two things can be the same, but they can also be different. Any questions on those? Okay, so I will go to the ADU bylaw. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you two different versions of the bylaw. So as you remember, at the last meeting, we had proposed certain language and is published in the enterprise on the left-hand side of the screen. That's the original language that we had proposed and started the public hearing with. We've subsequently met with Town Council's office a couple of times to review that language and try to make things a little bit more clear, because as you can imagine, ADUs are an important topic right now, and there's a lot of questions about what can I do on my property, how can I use it, and the state law is, in my opinion, somewhat clear. The regulations that you have in front of you spell out more of that information. So the regulations, we've provided a copy for you. Let me just make sure that the folks at home know exactly what I'm talking about. So here are the regulations that the state has created for protected use accessory dwelling units. Now again, protected use ADU is that first ADU. It's the one that you can have by right. Everything else past that we'll get to down the road, but as of right now, your zoning bylaw will only allow a lot to have one accessory dwelling unit, and that's all by right. So when I say when I say or make reference to the regulations, this is the document that I'm referring to. So I'm going to just sort of show you the difference between the two versions, the version that you saw at the last meeting and the version tonight. And so the new version, as you can see, is on the right-hand side of the screen. There are three main areas where you will see changes, and hopefully everyone has the new version in front of them. It's going to be first and foremost in the definitions, then in what was the old requirements section, and then the new section, which it talks about all of the requirements that would be in place for all ADUs. So I'm going to summarize that fairly quickly, and then we'll go to questions. So as you can see, comparing the two, the purpose statements have remained the same. There's no change there. But the definitions is where you start to see changes. So what Town Council's helped us with is essentially changing the reference. Instead of producing the actual definition, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, instead of doing that, on the right, referring to the regulations, so that any time the regulations change, we don't have to keep coming back to town meeting and changing the definition. We can always just have it refer to something that we assume won't change, but in the event that it does, it can remain as printed, and we don't have to keep changing that.
So this adjusts with state law as it changes?
Well, it's possible. And if it does, what we don't want to have to keep doing is chasing that and making sure that our definition matches. So anytime that it does change, we'll still be referencing the CMR, the regulations that I showed you previously. And let me just go to those regulations real quick, because I think it's an important component. So within those regulations are all of the definitions that Not all of them are listed in our bylaw, but the definitions are found within the regulation itself. So all we're doing is saying, refer to this regulation, which we will have on our website and available to folks, but they'll be able to see what that definition refers to.
Go ahead, Jim.
This is important. I don't believe, I've been listening to you carefully, and you're saying, like, for now, we're dealing with one by right, but is the state trying to say or implying that you could have more than one?
Yes.
Are they, and so do you see us adopting that in the future? Or could someone say, now that we've written this way and said the state could have it, I want it, and they have to have, does that open the door? Because now you're referring to what the state says, and even though it's not in our bylaw note refers to specifically what this state says, and it'd be argued, but they could make the argument. Is that what, without going to town meeting again? That's my question.
So to answer your question is, you currently will only allow one ADU per lot.
That's clear.
Once we get through town meeting, our intent is to have a conversation with you folks about, if you want to allow more than one, what sort of guardrails do you want to put in place? Because you can change the size. You can change the building height. You can have control over design. You have ultimate control over the second and however many you want to allow ADUs. You just don't have control over the first one. And the first one is the protected use.
I'd just like to add something to that. So the state's regulations say that the towns themselves can figure out how many you want. We only need to allow one by right. If we want to allow more by local ADUs by special permit, we can. If we don't want to, we don't have to.
I understand that clearly, but I was being specific with your terms about referring to the state law, so we don't have to keep coming back and revising it. And if the state law says you can someone make that argument as soon as we pass this, and that language now says it's the state law that does it, and our bylaw doesn't have to get updated, does that open the door? I'm trying to be specific on that exactly.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the state's going to tell towns that they have to allow.
The direct answer to your question is no.
Okay.
So I may have been confusing, but let me just show you what I meant.
But you used the term "for now"
Right,
when
so
you were
it's-
describing it. I just heard something that was left a little crack in the door, and I'm just trying to understand.
Let's close that crack. So up on the screen, I've highlighted what I meant by referring to the regulations. So it's only for the definition.
Yeah.
It's just for that simple term that we're saying in your bylaw, you'll say accessory dwelling unit as defined in this regulation. That's it. That's the only reference that
So
we're
it's only
making.
to the definition, it's not
Just
to
the
the amount.
definitions.
Thank you. That's
Yep.
where I was unclear. Thank you very much. It took me a while to get that message.
Yes, Charlotte.
I recall, and Pat, you may recall also, that one of the things we were trying to do with recodification back when it was more of a team effort was make it so that applicants and people who are interested didn't have to fumble around among a number of sources. They would be able to find what they needed here in our bylaws. And this is different from that. This is, oh, go look and find this CMR, whatever that is thing.
I realize that. It does stray from that, that goal, that objective that we had. But I do think it's important, especially considering the fact that these regulations were just published. It is entirely possible that down the road, a definition might be changed. And the last thing we want to do is be in a position that, one, we don't know that it changed, and that our definition now is in conflict with state regulations, and two, have to continually search it to make sure that our definition is in fact the same one as the state regulations. So therefore, that reference protects us, and we don't ever protect you or the town, and you don't ever have to update it.
Could I suggest that our original intent to prevent people from fumbling around looking for other sources could be met and meet this intention of saving you guys work down the road? You could include the definition right here, and then asterisk or footnote that these are in accord with 760 CMR 71 blah blah.
The only
So that people
problem,
know that, but they would be able to be looking at
Well, if
our
they-
bylaws and understand what's intended without going looking for something else. And I think it was a very worthwhile goal, and I hate to see it abandoned.
So the advice from town council was that if these definitions ever change, then we don't have to keep changing our bylaw.
Noble, but anything could change in the entire thing. They're all subject to change. That's true of everything.
Yep.
It's not especially true of new regulations. In fact, it's less likely to be true of new regulations because they just did it. I just don't buy that argument. And the fact that the town council said it doesn't mean we have to do it. We're being asked, what do we think of that? And I think it's not a good idea.
I agree with Charlotte.
Okay.
And I think it could be, with how we had it, I think it could be, or as currently found in.
Yeah. I wonder if we could thread that needle with some language that, I'm just throwing it out here, a definition, as you're saying, and then to your point, or as defined.
I don't think you could do both.
I'm not
I
sure
don't
you
think you
could.
would have to say or. Just reference that that's the foundational document somewhere at the footnote, but these are the definitions that are in force now. That would be better. It would be clearer. It would be more useful to people who want to think about an ADU or are in the process of trying to do one. Much better. This is a departure from one of the main purposes of the recodification.
And as it was written, it just turns me off.
Right. This is
Okay.
terrible.
Well, it's a good topic. I think that, if the chair would indulge, maybe a conversation about it so that we can bring that back.
Well, we're conversing now.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
We could converse
And I
right
think
now.
I think if the next meeting, if we saw it in writing, or before the next meeting, what they're suggesting, then we can make a informed decision.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the left and right of the screen will tell that story. So Charlotte, your point is we should go back to the paragraph style as shown on the left, rather than having just the reference to the CMR.
Yes.
And Pat, if there's a way to potentially meld the two together, we can certainly look at that.
This
Because we've
applies
done
the
that. We've done that in our documents before. When the Bobs were here, they would say, or as, whatever the update is.
It applies the fact that any part of the new ADU law could change. Any part of it, not just the definitions. Any part of all the things that have a foundation in state law could change. So I would think some statement initially or as a footnote saying these are aligned with and in accord with such and such. That's all you need.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting, so there's this additional paragraph here, which I believe gets to your point. It makes it clear that the terms that are defined within the definition section only relate to accessory dwelling units. And, it does say if the regulations do change, they would supersede those found in section 9.
Right, and
So-
speaking English, you'd put the only in a different place in that sentence.
Okay. We'll certainly take that back. It sounds like perhaps the whole board is potentially in agreement with that, and would like to see us change back to the,
Well, I would like to hark back to when we began recodification. This is a long time ago now. This is, 6 years ago?
At least.
Whatever it was, when we were really aware of people coming here or coming to your office or your predecessor's office and just, mired in confusion because you had to look everywhere in the document and in other documents in order to go forward.
Sure.
So we were reacting to that when we set the goal that we wanted it as much as possible to be a standalone document so that people can understand how to proceed from what was here. That was important at the time.
I would just like to point out that our attempt to be that clear really didn't work in many cases, especially when the same issue with multifamily use on other properties. The two Bobs and made this absolute references that it can't be, and yet we found another clause that said it could be. And we had to go back and redo it again, because I believe the intention of this board was always to have some more flexible, not on this unit, but on the multifamily unit. But your exact example that you're using, how clear you were, was actually wrong, and we had to redo it twice. So it's really hard to be so, this is it.
it's fair.
I just caution you, I was not a fan of how absolute the codification was, because I kept finding things that we missed, and we had to go back and do it over and over again. So it's not infallible. So just be careful. I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just reminding you, you have a clear vision how great that was. I don't share the same vision. It was very difficult.
I think carrying it out was difficult. I think carrying it out was imperfect, but I do think that the goal
got it
of
done.
making it,
But we ended up changing, now multi-use is
Don't interrupt
allowed.
her. Let
I'm
her
sorry, I'm
finish.
just,
I think the goal was good. I think the implementation of it was probably less good, because things tend to be imperfect. We'll never be that clear. English is ambiguous no matter what. But I do think sticking to the goal of being able to find out what's expected of you when you read the bylaw is a good goal. And this doesn't do that.
Yeah, and I think, I'm just reading this section here. I think that it's possible that what you're suggesting is possible. This sentence, that the way I read it, would simply say that in the event that the zoning code, our zoning code, differs from the regulations, the definitions in the regulations shall supersede those found in this zoning bylaw.
Great.
So I think it's possible to then add back the language that you see on the left, provided that it's consistent with the regulations, and we'll go from there. But we'll certainly ask town council's office to make sure that that makes sense.
Or tell them. And John's point, to have it before,
Yeah, we don't need to make a decision this evening, do we?
So we'll get to that at the end, but it may be advised.
Maybe this was the end.
Yeah, so, but put a pin in that too.
I'm like, you.
So onward we go in the new version. So again, that's all the definitions. I do want to highlight this new section. So after the definitions of the old, and I say old, last week's bylaw, or 2 weeks ago, we started off, after the definitions on the left-hand side, we had essentially requirements, right? And so those were all of the items that either existed within our current ADU bylaw or were found within the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities model ADU bylaw. So we added some language that was consistent with the state's new law. Town Council's office has suggested that what we do is we take 9.1C and break it into two parts. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see language in 9.1C that only relates to the protected use ADU. Again, that first ADU that is allowed by right. And so what you see, and then the second section, so you're breaking it into two. One deals with only protected use ADUs, and then the next section deals with all ADUs. So that when we do come back and have a conversation about the potential of having a second, third, or whatever, we don't have to do a wholesale change to the ADU bylaw, all right? So I'm gonna go through the first 5 items up on the screen, and I'm just gonna maximize it because it might be hard for folks to read. And then, if we need to compare between the two, we can do that. But I just wanna make sure that we can see it up on the screen. All right, again, so we're talking about all protected use ADUs. That first one is essentially allowing a protected use ADU on a lot, pre-existing non-conforming structure or a pre-existing non-conforming lot. So essentially what we're saying is, in those situations, you're still allowed to have a protected use ADU. Section 2. This is important. So the protected use ADU that's accessory to the principal dwelling cannot be more restrictive in its dimensional standards as would be required by a principal dwelling, a single-family dwelling, or an accessory building within that same district. So we're talking about setbacks, we're talking about building height, we're not talking about size, because again, protected use ADUs can only be a certain size. So it's
but
dimensional
isn't that a
items.
dimensional standard, the size, the
Technically
900
not.
feet?
No. No, lot coverage would be a dimensional standard. Setback would be a dimensional standard, and height would be a dimensional, but not the size. Even though it sounds like it would be, state law says that an accessory protected use ADU can only be 900 square feet or 50% of the principal dwelling. So you don't have
Whichever is
control
less.
over that,
Whichever is less.
whichever is less. Okay? Item number 3, unless there's questions.
I just want to be clear, if it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure, but it does meet the height restrictions and everything else, but say it doesn't meet the setback, it's protected.
Right, so essentially, a protected use ADU would not need to go through a special permit process, even though.
Okay, that's how it's done. You don't have to
Exactly.
go there. It's
So
already there.
the structure itself, if it's not conforming, would still have to go through that, but the protected ADU does not,
Okay.
okay? And that's essentially what item number 3 says. So item number 4, we've talked about this before, but it's worth repeating. So now the new rule will be for protected use ADUs, the by right, they will not be subject to site plan review. It will simply be a building permit with the building commissioner, with sign-offs from other departments. And then the last item, no on-street parking, or sorry, no off-street parking is required for protected use ADUs that are located within a half mile of a transit station. Again, transit station is a defined term in the previous section. It essentially means near a ferry, bus station, or route, commuter rail station, or a fixed route transit station, train station.
Did you say bus route? Did you add that in there?
You did.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes,
And our bus route is every inch of. the
Route
road.
28.
Yeah.
correct,
And it's a half mile either side, right?
correct.
Jed, going back to number 3,
3.
what are any required findings under MGL C40A, Section 6?
So Section 6 of MGL 40A is all dealing with non-conforming structures, uses, and lots.
So this required finding is all about non-conforming.
Correct. So protected ADUs do not have to go through that process.
Thanks.
Okay?
Pat?
Looking at this, number 5, no off-street parking is required for a protected use ADU within a half-mile radius of a transit station. Does that mean they can park on a public street then?
No.
Okay.
So I'll show you why.
Okay, please.
So later on, so we're going to get to this next section that deals with all ADUs. Later on, we've got this statement here. So again, it's a little repetitive, and it does mention the fact that if you're within a half mile, you don't need a parking spot. But the last sentence, all required parking shall be located on the premises of which it serves and shall not be permitted off-site, on town property, or within the roadway right-of-way.
That's number 10.
That's number 10.
That's Paul.
What is defined as a transfer station?
Transit station?
Transit station.
Sure. Good question. So I'm going to go back to the regulations. So a transit station could be a bus station, as shown on the screen. So any
Bus
location.
stop?
It can,
The bus stop or a station, like a
it can be
physical
both.
station?
It can be a station, it can be a bus stop, and I interpret that as also the route. So it's any point of embarkation, so any time that you get on the bus. And so our fixed route transit bus is a flag stop system.
Because you can wave it down.
So the bus can stop anytime along that route where it's
If
safe.
you're half a mile off Main Street, that's a transit station,
Correct,
because you can call the bus.
correct.
So that would also include, like, they go through a shopping center, be a half mile from that also? That's
If,
part of their route?
yep, if, I would say if the route goes, wherever the route goes, there's a half-mile buffer off of each side, and any parcel within that, or any property within that buffer, does not have to have a parking spot for a protected use ADU.
Any other questions on that?
Now, it's not applicable, but a transit station can also be a commuter rail station, as shown on the screen. It can also be a ferry terminal, so again, down in Woods Hole. So anything within a half mile of that ferry terminal. Not out in the ocean, because that wouldn't make any sense. And then
Do the ferries, ferries at Falmouth Harbor count? There's 3 ferries in Falmouth Harbor.
No, it would just be the steamship. So let me go back to the bylaw, which is a good question.
Island Queen, Pied Piper, and the,
It's only what runs year-round.
yeah,
Yep.
If it's seasonal, it doesn't count.
there's one that runs year-round. That's one particular. TG runs a ferry off of Simpson Wharf all year round.
Okay. All right, well, that's good to know.
That's what I was in particular wondering about, if we're addressing that or not.
Okay. So as you can see, the definition of transit station as it's currently stated, as defined in the regulations to include without limitation the embarkation points for the CCRTA bus line and the steamship authority. So if we've got another transit system that serves year-round and it fits the definition found in the regulations, we can add it to this statement.
Can you find out if that does? Because
You note that, Melinda?
the contractors use it all winter long to run over to the vineyard all the time. It really is used pretty heavily, not so much for tourists, but working people use it constantly.
Is it,
Okay.
it's public?
What?
Like it's for any public?
Anybody, yes, you buy a ticket. I mean, it's not free, but you buy a ticket.
So it would fall under the definition of a ferry terminal. So let's make sure, the location where passengers,
The one in particular, I think it's called Simpson's Wharf. if you need
Simpson's
to be-
Wharf?
Yeah, that's,
and it's regular time intervals?
yes.
Okay. All right. So if it fits that definition, we'll certainly add it.
That adds up a lot of places in Falmouth, downtown Falmouth.
Right. So I'm going to sort of reorient everybody. We just covered number 1 through 5 on the screen. So again, we're going to move on to the requirements for all ADUs.
John,
Yes.
before you do,
Sure.
why doesn't it say for all ADUs? And why are number 1 and 2 included here, rather than in the section that is intended for the protected use ADUs, where they belong? That's what they're about.
It's because they're more general and broad statements.
Not really.
Well, I realize your point where there's protected use ADU language in here, but
In 1
again,
and 2.
so I don't see that in 2. Make sure you're reading the correct.
I'm reading something that says, only 1 ADU shall be allowed, as, this is in the new version,
Yep.
only 1 ADU should be allowed as of right on a lot containing a principal dwelling unit in a single-family residential zoning district.
Right.
Only 1 ADU. So that sort of belongs in the protected use ADUs. That's number 2.
Yeah, so I think, well, I shouldn't say I think. The rationale here was to, and I hear what you're saying, Charlotte. The rationale was to focus all of the restrictions and requirements of protected use within 9.1C, and a general statement that says only 1 ADU is allowed on the lot, even though it is referring to the protected use ADU, it's more general as it applies to all ADUs within town. But if you feel like you want to move it, we can certainly entertain that, for sure.
It's the clearest statement about what a protected ADU is.
I'm not sure where you're at. You're going back and forth there, and I'm not sure which.
Because I think it's a classification error. The first section, 240-91C, writes to construct protected use ADUs. And under the next section, requirements and limitations, the first 2 statements are about protected use ADUs. So you'd think they would be in the section about ADUs.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first statement is meant more to say, this section is intended to only allow the construction of a protected use ADU, to make it clear that the town currently does not have a regulation or rules for more than 1 ADU on a lot. So it's just a general statement to say, we only allow 1 right now.
We're
And
just
then-
talking about where that statement belongs, because 91D, requirements and limitations for all ADUs, would be clearer, 1. And you clearly then, maybe I'm the only one who thinks
Could you
this.
scroll
then you
down so we
move
can see
those.
91C? You just took it out of the vision, so I'm not following what Charlotte says.
Here, take a look.
Well, it's right there. I mean, I knew it was on the screen, he just didn't scroll, he went by it. I was reading it and he went by it.
So I think what Charlotte's saying is 1 and 2 would be moved up to 9.1C.
Yeah, in fact, there would probably be 1 and 2 there, or wherever you put them there, but that's where they belong.
I don't see the harm in leaving them where they are, but if the board wants to move them, we can certainly go ahead and move them.
I don't know why that's so important. Okay.
Anybody else? Any thoughts?
I'm just curious, why is that half-mile limit so terribly important?
That's found in the state law.
State law?
Yes, yeah,
But the
Seems
Charlotte,
to be arbitrary, but the state law, it's not.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
you want to move just because you think it'll be more clear?
Yes,
I do too.
yes.
Okay.
It just cleans it up.
It's still there, right? It's just in a different
Right.
spot.
Well, yeah, but if it's going to be there and it comes from us, I just assume it'd be logical.
Like I said,
logical.
I don't necessarily.
Same words
have
on
a
the
problem with
page,
that.
just the order they're in, right?
Yep.
That's all you're talking about, changing the order?
Yep. Changing the section.
Yeah, just
Because there
moving,
is a limitation in that sentence. You know, if it's requirements and limitations, the second sentence says no construction of accessory dwelling units other
Where are you
than,
reading that?
right there.
Two.
Number one, under 91D. And if it's a requirement and a limitation, there is a limitation in that sentence. That shouldn't be in the protected use section up above.
I mean, that's fair. Because number 2 is a
English
restriction
specialist, we're ones
or limitation.
limiting ourselves up. Whatever you think is.
Honestly, having it either there or in the other section, I don't think it changes the intent or spirit of the bylaw. I think it just is a natural flow of language, basically. I think that you would still have the exact language, just in a different area.
I think that when you're putting it in the right, and then you're saying, well, no, it isn't a right, I think it belongs in that second section, requirements and limitations.
It-
Because you are putting a limit on it.
What is the limit you're putting on it?
No construction of accessory dwelling units other than protected use accessory dwelling units shall be permitted by this section.
And that section is the right to construct protected use of ADUs. It's all about ADUs. I don't want to hold everything up for this. It just strikes me as illogical.
Okay, we'll move on, and if we want, if you'd like to, we can come back to it. So,
They both make good points.
agreed.
I personally like it the way it is.
Okay.
What?
So, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So we've covered number 1 and number 2 in this 9.1D. Number 3, I think, is an important one. Again, we've covered this in the past. None of these ADUs can be operated as a short-term rental at any time. Again, if you want to change that in the future, we would come back to town meeting, we would amend that. But we understood that to be the intent of the board. Similar language in number 5, but a little bit different. And it basically says that the ADU itself cannot be used as a commercial accommodation at any time. Now, a commercial accommodation is a defined term within our zoning bylaw. As shown on the screen, it's capitalized to indicate that it is a defined term. We did receive comments, and we've covered them briefly in the previous meeting from Attorney Moynihan. We do intend to go through them with you tonight, but that's one of the items that we'll get back to at the end of this walkthrough. And then, of course, the important component of the ADU is size limitation, 900 square feet or 50% of the gross floor area of the principal dwelling, whichever is less. And then, again, it's defining how, if you have multiple principal dwellings on the lot, which one do you choose when determining the size of the allowable protected use ADU? And so it basically says it would be the largest one.
Jim, go ahead.
Okay, this is interesting. It just came to me tonight because I've been dealing with this issue. When you're determining the size of the ADU, do you switch back to the net area, or are you now talking to the gross? In other words, does the basement count and the attic count even though you can't live in it? So you're limited to 900 square feet, including the basement and the attic? Because that's what that says if you're going from net to gross. And I thought you were applying something else. And I think I see a mistake, or...
No, so the state law changed all that, and now we have to go by gross floor area. And
but for both.
Yep.
Well, if you're doing the gross floor and it's limited to 900 square feet, then now you're counting the basement of their ADU. So an ADU with the basement can't be more than 900 square foot gross. So you could have a 900 square foot first floor and a 900 square foot basement and have a gross area of 1,800 square feet and wouldn't be allowed. It's just words, but we're picking apart words. I thought I'd point that
No,
out.
it's an important point. And so in order,
Because we allow the gross when you're looking at the main house, but you're switching to the net on the ADU.
so
And for
here's.
those of us who are in the business, this gets us really confused.
Sure. Here's the definition of gross floor area that is included as reference within the new version of your bylaw. So we can read it together and try to figure this out. But our understanding is that all of the gross floor area would be calculated for calculating the size of the ADU.
So my question is specific. A 900 square foot ADU with a 900 square foot basement. It's got a gross area of 1,800 square feet.
Correct?
Is it allowed?
Wouldn't think so.
So I built an ADU 2 years ago, a new ADU,
Yep.
and no basement,
Right.
crawl space.
Right. So back in a couple of years ago, the way we dealt with that was on the site plans or the floor plans, there would be a note indicating that the basement was not habitable space, right? And so that it was to remain that way. But Jim, in
The
your...
very first ADU we approved had a full basement.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
laws are different.
And they used it. I mean,
way back.
This
yeah.
is really difficult language. I didn't catch it. I've been thinking about it for years, and it just dawned on me right now. So that,
Yeah,
Yep.
so there's got to be some language in there to differentiate
Yeah, to clarify
living
it.
space versus,
but see, that's what happens when you use the
Yeah.
term gross.
Yeah.
And then I was taken back when gross showed up, because all of a sudden the attic counted, the basement
Yeah.
counted. And when you're looking at the primary structure to get to the 50%, it became very, very liberal. But it has to work both ways.
Yeah.
You can't
It
change
does.
it, go to net when you go back to the ADU, or you can, then the word should say net.
No, so it does work both ways. So it clearly says an ADU shall not be larger than a gross floor area of 900 square feet. So let's go back to the definition of gross floor area, and that's exactly your point. It would have to include areas like basements, lofts, intermediate floor tiers, etc.
It being the
It ruins the
ADU.
bylaw.
It being the ADU as well as the principal dwelling. So you're using the same term to define the size of the allowable ADU as well as the size of the principal dwelling.
But-
just shrink
But to get the maximum 900 square feet for the ADU, if it has a basement, that's counted
Correct?
as part of the 900.
That's the way I read it.
Right, so they would just put in a crawl space instead of a full basement.
Correct.
yeah.
That's the answer.
Attics are not counted.
That's the answer. But presently, that isn't that way. We do allow a full basement.
Well, not anymore,
Right, because
well, we
of this-
did, but a lot of things that we did prior aren't allowed
Wow,
anymore.
that messes up
I'm
people.
not in favor of doing this, okay? I'm just picking out the language that we're also being real careful about what we're doing right here.
If
It just
people-
hit me in the head.
But if people already have it approved the way it is, we're not gonna go make them change it. It is what it is. It was approved the way it was, but moving forward, these are the guidelines that we have
So
to
the
go by.
ADU should have a crawl space and not a full basement.
Well, yeah, but it's up to the person if they wanna have a,
That's what the law says.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
reading that, and
Yeah.
that's what it says, but why would we want to restrict ADUs
I
to
don't.
have no basement? That's
Yeah.
gonna make a very cold
If
building.
they're a basement, they can be finished off at some point.
Well,
Yeah, I understand that part, but so they're not allowed to, or some of, but
and then
I'm
you
just
need
pointing out the
a
language, okay?
utilities.
I want them to have a full basement. I think we should have a full basement. But that says, you're the ones about being careful in the words. That's what those words say.
your first floor can only be 450 feet.
Yes.
That's
If
what
you
it's
have a
saying.
full basement.
If you have a full
Or
basement.
you have a crawl space, and I think that's wrong.
Or slab on grade.
Or slab on grade, and I think that's wrong. I'm not saying I want this, I'm just saying, if we're being so careful about what we're writing, and we're using this words, we switched from net area to gross
we're
area,
not writing this. This is the
Right.
Yeah, this
state.
is
The state,
This is-
that's the state says
but
that.
does the state mean that?
Yes.
Yes.
They mean
Yes.
they want to be only 450 square feet?
No, they-
No basement?
No, no. So what they say is that it cannot be larger than 900 square feet of gross floor area.
Yeah.
You, as the applicant, get to decide how you want to use that 900 square feet. If you want to do a full basement, fine. But if you don't want to do a basement, you've got a
Okay,
900
that's, so
square
what
foot.
we're saying is no full basement. That's really what we're saying.
Unless you want, let's say you
Unless you
want
want
it.
it.
Unless,
We've had many come before us that have crawl spaces. Not everyone that's come before us before has a basement.
I also agree, I think it's a lousy building to have a crawl space. I think a full basement makes it easier to maintain the building, take care of it. It's better. I am not in favor of restricting the basement, but if we're going to be careful about what we're writing, and we're using the word net and gross, I think it has, you can't use
No, that's not our writing. John, what were you going to say?
state. We're adopting it, though.
I was gonna say that if somebody wants to have a full basement, 450 square feet, then they're gonna have to have 450 square feet above.
Correct,
They can finish both floors off.
correct.
I think it gets
And-
complicated when you want to put an addition on as opposed to a separate detached ADU. I mean, that gets real messy.
Well, if you put an addition on, I would think that the basement, if it's connected to the other basement, then it would count as the square footage for the house. But a lot of our ADUs, if you think of it, the ones that we have had in the past, a lot of them are over garages, or on second floors. So, I mean, this area right here hasn't been an issue really in the past. A lot of people have put in crawl spaces.
But we have had a number of people that are building brand-new houses and incorporating an ADU within that initial footprint, too. And we've had some two-story ADUs that are part of another structure, the main house.
But it doesn't really matter what we've had in the past. This is about going forward.
Right, going forward.
And it will appear that going forward, we're not going to be allowed to approve an ADU with a full basement unless it has restricted the overall building to 900 square feet. And that basically means putting in tiny houses that are even smaller than we thought they would be. There would be 450 square feet cubed with one below ground level.
If they want a basement, full
Yeah.
basement.
Correct.
Well, but most people do want a full basement for insulation purposes.
Then they have a tiny house
utilities.
upstairs on the first floor.
Or they do crawl
I think that's what
spaces.
they meant.
So it's a restriction by the state?
I think so.
Yes.
It is.
We've just got to
I'm
deal with
sorry
it.
I brought it up.
No, no,
I
it's-
disagree
it's
with
a
it,
good-
but that's what this says.
That is
it's a
what it
good-
says.
It's a good discussion.
So it's an important point, and what's really important is to not confuse the fact that we are not using net versus gross. We are using gross and gross for both the
That was my
ADU
question.
and the
John?
principal.
That was a specific question. But when they do, the 900 becomes 450 with the full basement, and that's not what I think is good.
Yeah.
I don't see how you could get you're allowed to have a three-bedroom ADU. How are you going to fit a three-bedroom ADU in 450 square feet?
Very
And
tight
sleep on
quarters.
army cots.
So Tom has a
I think
question.
it's a mistake in the state law.
Tom?
What's the size of a crawl space? Refresh my memory, no greater than what?
Can't stand up.
Habitable space in a basement, I
7
believe,
feet.
has to be at least 7 feet. The ceiling height has to be at least 7 feet tall.
For a crawl space? No,
No, no,
no,
no,
no,
for a
what I
full
want to,
basement.
okay.
So
Or to
anything
count
under that.
towards
No.
the-
So if we're going to do 900 and a crawl space underneath, what are the dimensions? What's the height of a crawl space in the book? Do we
6 feet,
know?
11 inches.
Yeah, it's basically anything below
Anything under
7.
7 feet.
Okay,
It
So they
wouldn't
could
be
have a
habitable.
6-foot
okay,
basement,
Yeah.
that's
That's what we had
doable.
on Glenwood because of the flood zone.
okay.
and they could have a 5-foot
It's great
basement.
for me.
Sucks, but it works.
That's what used to be.
But again, it would be up to the applicant to decide how they want to configure their ADU. If they really want to John's point, if they really want a full basement, they could do that. They're just limited in their living space above it.
Doesn't
So
work
they
that
would
way.
have to figure out how that would work.
Well,
A
even if
450 square foot three-bedroom apartment doesn't work.
That's very tight.
even if they have a 6'11"
Or 6.
basement,
Yeah.
that's plenty of room for your utilities and
That's the biggest thing.
headroom and, not many
So,
people, not many
and again-
people are taller than 6 feet 11.
I don't know many. Yeah.
That might be the solution right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If we
I-
just make it right there.
And I'm
Well,
sure,
that's what it says.
Yeah.
yeah, so,
And again, that's just for the first ADU, right?
Right.
These are all items that you don't have control over. Moving on?
yeah.
Okay.
So wait a second. So now we're saying, as long as the basement is 6 feet 11 inches, it doesn't count in the gross area.
So
That's what we were saying?
to clarify what I was saying is that my understanding is livable space in the basement, ceiling heights have to be a minimum of 7 feet in order to be habitable space.
Yeah.
But the bylaw doesn't say livable space, it says gross area.
I would defer to the building commissioner on this because that gets beyond what we
Maybe
know.
we need a clarification on that. This is important.
But you don't have control over that language.
I just don't want to know what it means.
Fair.
I don't want
And
to,
We
don't
can
wanna control
do
the
that
language.
offline, but this language can't be altered because it's in the state law. So you don't have control over the
Okay, so
gross versus net. It has to be
who can I
gross
get a
floor area.
determination from on the-
Building
what
commissioner.
state law says? Do I have to go to an attorney, or do I go to the?
We can
building
work on that for you. Yeah, we can, because I
That's
think
all.
it's
I just
important
wanna know
information
what it
for us
is.
too. Yeah,
I'll deal with it one way or the other. I'm not advocating, I just.
clarity.
Well, it's a good point.
Yeah. Okay, so item number 6, simple statement. It basically says, you know, the ADU still has to meet all of the applicable requirements within the bylaw. So setbacks, it still needs to adhere to front yard setbacks. It still needs to adhere to lot coverages. You know, you can't just go willy-nilly. It still needs to meet all the other requirements.
So if you have a small, or you have a large house on a small lot, and a 900, or any size ADU would not, would go over the lot limit, lot size limit, you can't put an ADU on that property then?
So if you go over the lot coverage, and you are in a zone where you can obtain a special permit to exceed the lot coverage,
Yeah.
then that would be dealing with the lot itself. It wouldn't be approving the ADU, even though they are sort of tied together.
Yeah.
That protected use ADU is still a by right application. You would still need to correct the non-conforming issue as it relates to lot coverage. I hope I answered your question. But if you are in a zoning district that doesn't allow lot coverage over 20%, so I think the only zoning district, residential anyway, is the general residence, if I'm not mistaken, that you cannot exceed 20%. So my understanding would be that if you're at, let's say 20, no, you cannot add more lot coverage, and therefore you cannot have a protected use ADU, unless you were able to fit it within the existing structure and not exceed the lot
Okay,
coverage.
yeah, okay, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
But in all the other areas.
You're running out of questions.
General residential, you can go to the ZBA and get approval for up to 25%.
Exactly. So that,
Door is still open.
correct. And that's what I was referring to at the
I
beginning.
thought so, I just wanted to understand.
Number 7 simply says the footprint of the new detached ADU cannot exceed that of the principal dwelling. Fairly simple. Number 8 relates to Title V. So essentially, you know, the ADU construction needs to adhere to the Title V requirements. Number 9 relates to ADUs as they're applied for within the Coastal Pond Overlay District and the Water Resource Protection Overlay District. So as you know, in the Water Resource Protection Overlay District, there are certain restrictions or requirements for lot size and lot coverage for new residential properties within that overlay district. So the ADU would be subject to all of the requirements within both of those overlay districts if it were within those districts. We've covered number 10, that was all do with parking, and of course, the last item, and this is an important component. This is the only section where design comes into play when you're talking about a protected use ADU, and it's only related to the historic districts. So a ADU within a protected use ADU within a historic district needs to adhere to the guidelines as published by the Historical Commission.
The whole town of historic district.
Right, that's what I was thinking. It'd be pressure if it gets historic.
So that is the difference.
That's what it's gonna do, it'll open up more
I'm
store.
going to
Right.
just toggle back to what I was referring to a minute ago. So if you were to compare side by side, the left being where we were 2 weeks ago to where we are today, we believe that the right-hand side of the screen is a superior version of the article for town meeting, obviously with some potential tweaks. But the idea is to, as I described, separate out 9.1C, which is found on the left-hand side, which was just a list of all of the requirements. And then importantly, what we did is we eliminated 9.1D, which was administration. All we said in 9.1D was essentially that the building commissioner was able to approve this as a building permit. We feel that that language has already been covered within the new version on the right-hand side. And so there's no reason to have the administration. That was some language from the model bylaw that we don't think is necessary at this point.
So where does it appear in the new one?
Okay, so on the right-hand side, in the purpose statement, right at the beginning, let's maximize this real quick. So it's the first sentence. So the purpose of this section is to allow accessory dwelling units to be built as of right. So an as-of-right build is a building permit. We've also articulated the fact that site plan review is not required for these protected use ADUs. So the only time that you would ever have site plan review is when you have a building permit. So therefore, with no site plan review, it's just a building permit with the building commissioner. And again,
Our workload just got cut in half.
yes. Yes. But your work continues after town meeting, because if you do want to decide on multiple ADUs, that's going to be a decent amount of work to figure out what kind of guardrails you want to put in place. So with that, to come back to your question, John, about when do you need to approve this article for town meeting? So the town meeting schedule, I'm going to just show it for everybody on the screen. We are supposed to provide, or let me say this, the select board is executing the warrant on September 8th. They're meeting on September 8th. So we need to have language to them by September 4th.
September what?
September 8th. So what I would say to you tonight is if you're comfortable, because we have 5 amendments, if you're comfortable with 4 of the 5 amendments, you may want to consider closing the hearing for those and approving them and allowing us to submit them to the select board office, town manager's office, as zoning articles for November town meeting. If you want to keep the public hearing open for the ADU bylaw, we may need to schedule another meeting, perhaps on September 2nd, as shown on the screen, to allow for one last review of the ADU version that we just covered tonight, close the hearing at that evening, and then we can submit on the 4th to the select board's office.
Well, I think we've gone through it pretty well this evening.
I do too.
When's our, don't we have a joint meeting? Is it on the 8th?
It is on the 8th. Yep,
Okay, so that meeting where they're approved, it's going to be a joint meeting with us there.
correct. Correct. So that'll be other business that will happen
Other
after your
business.
joint meeting.
Okay, so they do it without us. It's not
Correct.
part of our joint meeting, that's there.
Unless you want to stay.
Not really, I'm just trying to understand. This is getting pretty complicated.
Yeah, I get it. So the 8th, yes, is your joint meeting, and they will execute the warrant later on in the meeting.
So when do we see the final version?
Well, we could work it tonight. You could provide us with guidance, or you could say that this version that you see before you this evening is absolutely perfect and ready to go to town meeting to the warrant.
Oh, we already agreed that it's not perfect.
Well, I could take away my objection now that if you're saying that 6 foot 11 and a half inches means you can have a workable basement where you can put a heating system and your plumbing and do everything you need to do, but you just can't make it into a rec room in an ADU and turn it into an 1,800 square foot house. I can buy that.
Yep.
That's what we're saying, right?
Could we close the hearing with the changes that you want made, done by the staff, and so that we can move on from this?
I'd like to. I think that,
Changes that we want include the change under the first section, where we seem to agree that we wanted to return to the old definitions, rather than, so that this is complete in itself, rather than referring it to CMR 71 and so forth.
I think that's fine. I think those are the only changes we were going to make, though.
I think so,
It was
yeah.
just the definitions, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and I just want to clarify, I don't think we're saying that 611.5 is the answer. I think that's the building
That's
commissioner's
building.
decision.
It's definitely
Right.
building commissioner.
I'm saying that it could be a possibility.
Yep. All we're saying is 900 square
I
feet,
don't
figure
want
it out.
anybody to say afterwards, geez, I thought it was 611.5.
Yeah, no, we don't want to get into that.
And I don't want any, in the audience and at home too. That's not our jurisdiction.
Correct.
I just don't want 8-foot ceilings in the basement with a giant playroom down there and turning the house into, we all know how many people sleep in some of these things, and they have a great big room, and you end up with big rooms that aren't bedrooms with 10 people living in them.
Sure.
And I don't want to open the door to that.
Nor does anyone else. And the way it's written, that's not what's going to happen. But I think if we make the adjustments, we can go forward.
Okay.
Do we need to take a vote on that?
What I would suggest you do is open it up for public comment, even though there may be nobody here. But if, in the event someone does want to provide comment, they can do so. And then you can close the hearing if you'd like.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone from the public have any comments to add to this? I don't see anyone to step forward? No.
So now you would take a vote to close the hearing, and then take it under advisement, and you can discuss the amendments that you would like us to make, just for the record.
Okay.
I move that we close the hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous?
Great. And so just for clarity's sake, what we plan to do is, just do this real quick. What we plan to do is incorporate the language within these definitions on the left into this version on the right, keeping this statement at the top, which indicates that in the event that there's conflict, state regulations supersede the local code. That
Right.
is it.
Correct.
Very good. We can do that.
Do we need a vote on that, or? we're
Yes,
good?
please.
Okay. So, Charlie,
Okay,
you
so
wanna
I
make
would move it just as Jed described it right now.
Since you write it up.
a
Yes.
second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
And for clarity's sake, the vote also includes for us to submit to the Select Board's office for consideration for the November town meeting for the accessory dwelling unit bylaw amendment.
Correct.
Okay. Do you also want to make a motion for the others? Because there are 4 other amendments.
Decided on that.
Who's going to move those up here?
We are.
Yes.
Okay.
I
Sorry.
move that we recommend the 4 other amendments
Second.
discussed previously.
Second.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
No, 1, 2,
1, 2, 4, and 5.
Okay, sorry.
That's fine.
1, 2, 4, and 5. All right. Second? Bob seconded it?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good.
Jed, as long as you brought it up, and I don't see it as a discussion item, but maybe it is, the agenda for the joint meeting,
Yes. I don't have an agenda yet. I will be discussing it with the town manager tomorrow morning. So I'll be working with John to spread that information once we have it.
so we should let John know if we have an agenda item would like him to consider.
Sure, if there's, perhaps what we can do is, under the planning department report, I can report on it, and then we can have a discussion about it. Would that work?
Sure.
Because we still have one item to cover before we get to that point.
Oh, the ZBA referral.
Correct.
Ready?
Easy.
So now we have the 809 Sandwich Road, 40B ZBA referral.
Great. So, for the record, the planning department received this referral request this month, and as you can see up on the screen, the referral to the ZBA is due by the 11th of September. So this application includes a total of 36 rental apartments, 18 of which, let me just make sure that I've got that right, 13 of which will be affordable at a variety of different AMIs. And I don't have that with me tonight, but I'm sure it's included within the packet, and if not, we can certainly provide it to you. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Do you have a question? This application came through what we know as the Local Initiative Program. It's considered to be a friendly 40B. So we, myself, the housing coordinator, assistant town manager, a member of the select board, met with the developer several times to essentially get a flavor for what the application was and sort of guide the application forward as a friendly 40B proposal. So this is just the first sort of high-level description or site plan that shows the layout of the buildings. And I'm just going to really quickly orientate you to where this is within town. So this is located at 809 Sandwich Road. So this is the former Smithfield Farm location, which is, let's turn on the satellite real quick. Bingo. So this is the site itself. So for folks at home who are watching, this is the field up off of Sandwich Road. This is the new fire station that was just built. So this is just down the street at the intersection of Hatchville Road. And so the proposal is, as shown on the screen, it will basically utilize the majority of the site. There'll be a consistent structure as shown on the screen, with the exception of two in the front. And we'll sort of zoom out and give you a sense for what that looks like. So essentially, the front buildings are mimicked very closely to the structures found in McGantic Crossing, the 40B up in North Falmouth. So it's a duplex style, and again, all of these would be rental. They're spread out throughout the site. There's a shared IA system proposed. This would be the sort of the leaching area, common space for all of the units. And again, 13 of these units would be considered affordable at different AMI ranges. So included in your packets tonight is a variety of different plans. Here is the existing conditions, as I've shown you on the screen already. This is, as I mentioned, the site layout. And I'm just going to quickly go to the building elevations to give you a sense of what that structure is going to look like. There's the floor plans. So that is, and you'll recognize that as essentially the front of the building, but this, like I said, it mimics the McGantic Crossing style with two units on either side. So as you know, your role here is as if you were the planning department. We would typically get a referral on this type of application. So we want to go through it with you and pick out any items that you might have to provide to the ZBA in terms of what the site looks like, some constraints that you might be aware of, or perhaps positive comments that you want to provide to them. One item I am noting that we don't have for you this evening, so we may want to consider putting it on the agenda again, is the list of waivers that the applicant is looking for. So that's important for you because, as you know, with this type of development, they typically follow the subdivision standards in a 40B process. And so those are your domain, right? The subdivision standards of building a road, putting in utilities, et cetera. And so those are typically the types of things that the applicant would be looking for waivers on. So we'll go back and make sure that we get that list of waivers, bring it back to you, and we'll continue this discussion before we submit the referral to the ZBA.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yes, it is.
Questions, Jim?
Yeah, can you go over the various income qualifications? You said it's going to conform with all different ones. Could you spell the range? Does this go up to 110%? That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, so I don't have that off of the top of my head.
Could you give it to me later?
We can.
That's all I need. I just want to know what it is. I'm not questioning it.
I know that there was a range of 80s, 100, and 120%. I just don't remember exactly the number. But I will provide that at the next meeting.
Just wanted for informational purposes only. I don't object.
I'm pretty certain to be a 40B, it has to be at least 25% at 80%.
Correct.
And Jed, could you just for a minute give us a summary of the advantage or the town's participation in a friendly 40B?
Yes.
Like what departments they've already met with?
Right. So the advantage of going through the friendly 40B process is the fact that they meet with particularly myself, the housing coordinator, and the assistant town manager. And we have, in the past, met with the zoning administrator to get a feeling for what the ZBA might be looking for in these types of applications. So, for example, making sure that there are bus stop areas, making sure that the limit of tree clearing is clear on the site plans, and that to the extent possible that the developer limits the amount of tree clearing, that they produce or create buffers between this site and the neighboring properties, that they include adequate parking and visitor parking. So these are some of the topics that we continually hear from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So think of it as sort of the rough draft, or preliminary plan, if you will. So they come through that first process with us, they iron out all of those details. So hopefully when they get to the ZBA's special, or the comprehensive permit process, they've already ironed out and figured out that information, so that they don't have to spend a lot of time with the ZBA creating that information. It's already presented in the plans. So one of those components is right in here. There's a pavilion at the front, and there's area for school bus stop for where parents might line up. There's adequate space for that. This pavilion area would serve as a pseudo bus stop for kids to sit while waiting for the bus. Because likely, although we don't know for certain, likely the bus would not pull into the development. It would simply pick up kids on Sandwich Road. And so you'd want to have a place for them to sit and be out of the weather. So those are some of the things and some of the advantages of coming through that process. And more importantly, is we can work with the developer to create more affordable units and to create more of a, what's the term I'm looking for? More of a variety of AMI units. So instead of it just being 25% at 80% of the AMI, we look for a variety, 80%, 100%, 120%, so that we're not just focusing on one segment of the population, we're trying to focus on multiple segments. So those are some of the advantages.
Perfect, thank you. I want to go down the line and see if we have any comments or questions preliminary. Tom?
So I guess the entrance, I don't know if this is a thing. Can you have two entrances on the opposite side of the street, directly across from each other? Are they supposed to be offset?
So wherever possible, the idea would be to line them up. And the reason for that is, because when they're offset, clearly it creates confusion as you come to that intersection at the same time. So what we've tried to do is work with the developer to make sure that the entrance to the development lines up with the Hatchville Road intersection. I will say that, clearly this is a Y or a triangle-shaped intersection, which I never like, based on the number of conflict points. We'll be working with town staff to try and fix that situation, but that's outside the control of the developer. But to direct answer your question, it's always best to line
Okay,
this up.
all right, so by design. All right, thank you. That's it.
Yeah. I had a couple of questions. Number one is that intersection, I think, is going to be very problematic, and I think that's a real concern. Secondly, if I look at drawing 11,
11?
the top of the page shows a detailed wastewater system.
Yes. Sheet 11 out of 11?
Top,
Sorry.
right there.
Yep.
And yet if you look at drawing 5, it allegedly is in that center point on the south side, but there's something else in there. So it's very confusing to me what they're doing with the wastewater system, and I'd like somebody to explain that from the project standpoint.
Okay. What we can do is, when we have our next meeting, we can come back with that answer for you.
It's a very detailed, very flat slope all the way across for a long distance, and then it pumps out someplace else. But if that's located in this area, it looks very different in the drawings. And up in the northeast corner, there's looks like a stormwater system, and I don't see a lot of detail on that, so I'm not sure how they're handling that crosshatched area up in the right-hand corner.
This one here,
Yeah, it'd be nice to get that explained.
sure.
I initially had some confusion because there's 17 duplexes, and then there's 2 singles. But 2 of the singles are numbered 3 and 6.
Yeah,
So it's a duplicate numbering system, so initially I had a problem with that, but, you know,
Yeah.
that's not a big deal.
yeah.
And the last thing is, it appears to be a swell in the middle of the land going north, a low area. And the drawing says they're gonna put a retaining wall with a fence on top by others.
Oh, up in here, I
It'd be
think?
nice to know who's gonna be doing that, right up the top,
Yep.
Yeah.
So proposed fence on the retaining wall.
above 7
Yep.
to 18, those 3. See, it says
Yeah,
retaining.
7, 8,
wall on
and 10.
that. And I don't know what that is, it doesn't go the full property line. So I think somebody needs to explain what that is and what that detail is. I
Okay.
think it's very important.
Thank you.
John,
Pat?
can I
They're
ask-
trying to shoehorn a lot of stuff into that.
Tom, you have another question?
Yes, thank you. Jed, are there any designated open spaces for wildlife? on this
For
plan?
wildlife?
Yeah,
I don't believe there are for wildlife per se, but there is, just trying to get to a good, actually, right up in here. Let me get to that. So this is an open space, not for wildlife per se, but
Yep.
for the residents. I believe the intent is to essentially leave this area open to function as, place for pets, et cetera, but not necessarily for wildlife.
no corridor, okay.
Not that I'm aware of. No, I don't see any here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Pat?
I too believe that that intersection is going to be exceedingly dangerous. Is there any storage for these buildings, or do they have basements underneath?
That's a good question. Let's see if we've got floor plans.
Because there's no storage shown on the plan if they don't have basements.
There's basement plans.
Basement plan, yep,
Okay.
yep. So it looks like it would be divided in half. But we can certainly take a closer look at that.
What kind of, is that a bulkhead access or an interior access?
Yeah, it's hard to say at this point.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't read it.
Yeah, I don't want to keep going in and out of the plan. Poor FCTV is trying to figure this out, but we can come back and provide some more detail about that.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
Jim?
Just on procedurally, so if they're doing a lip, they convince the committee, and then the committee takes it through the process. The developer doesn't even show up here. You guys take over.
No, so the developer still shows, appears before the ZBA as the applicant,
I mean, to us.
but, no, so they would never come here.
Okay, that's my point.
Yep.
That's my point. What,
Yep.
we deal with you.
Correct.
That's all I need to know.
Yep.
Or they deal with us through them. Any other questions, Jim? Bob?
My comment was the same as that's the open space requirement, that field that's there.
It's not a requirement, but it's where they plan to put the
Septic system.
leaching area.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're not required to have any open space as part of this project?
Not as a comprehensive permit. However, based on what we hear from the ZBA on a regular basis, that is one of the things that we call it the Housing Development Working Group, who meet with these LIP applications, we make sure that they have that in there so that they're prepared when they get there.
And there are 2 other intersections. There's one further up, and then one on the opposite side of the road. Thomas Landis comes out onto that, and that is, I exit Hatchville Road across from that just about daily, and it can get pretty messy. It just kind of saddens me to see more Falmouth farmland get developed for housing.
Charlotte?
Based on what you said, we could assume that your team, your group, I've forgotten what you call it,
Housing Development Working Group.
Housing Development Working Group, that the you're satisfied already with the spacing,
Yes.
the provision for parking,
Yes,
and visitor parking,
yes.
and open space. So this satisfies that group already,
At a minimum, yes.
at a minimum. So, because these look really close together, what would we have that we've seen, that would have this kind of tightness?
Well, Megantic Crossing might be similar. I don't know of the building spacing between those existing structures.
I drive by those quite a bit. They're pretty close together, but this
Yeah.
looks more like, are you familiar at all with Southport?
You mean Homeport?
No, Southport, which is in Mashpee. It's an enormous development of some 750 units. And recently, within the last 4 years or so, they added an extra section to it where things are incredibly close together. And this looks like that.
There's a measurement that they're 20.1 feet apart. Just so you know.
So it's a 10-foot setback on each sort of lot, you might
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Oh,
See if we can show this a bit better.
And in another spot, it's 18.2, because they kind of angle in the back, so.
right, right.
Ranges between those, I believe.
And there really aren't very many trees, at least on the whole front part of that lot anyway. It's a horse farm right now.
Yeah, and so Megantic Crossing, I mean, rough, again, we're just measuring between the buildings is approximately 40 feet. So it's double of
So double,
what that is. Again, just with GIS.
yeah. Really crowded.
I can't think of another development offhand that is as tight. I mean, I would say Kendall Lane, but that's much tighter.
How
Nothing
far
comes
apart
to
are the
mind.
buildings in that?
They're smaller than this, except for the ones, well, side by side, they are, but there's a couple of big lots that have conservation land on Kendall Lane
Yeah.
that throw it off. But it's very similar, I think. It is around 20 feet.
Really?
It's basically a 10, no, it's 10 feet. That's some.
I think it has to be 10 feet. If it's not more than 10 feet, it has to be.
It's 10 feet.
Has to be fireproof on the outside.
Yeah,
And a
this is-
comment on the trees, too. You said you would try to save trees. My understanding is you can't save the trees when you dig the hole. By the time you do all the excavation, the arborists say the trees don't survive. So
It's
that's a
very
nice
hard.
thing to say, but did you really save any natural trees?
There really
it's-
aren't any on it.
It's extremely hard, and we don't go to that level of detail. We
Okay.
simply say to the
It was your
developer.
comment saying you intended to save trees.
It's
I didn't think
important
you
that we emphasize to the developer, look, save as
When you
much as
can.
you can, because we know that the zoning board of appeals has issue with clear cutting. We all do. We all do. But there's also reality when you do development like that.
My
It's
understanding is by
challenging.
the time you do the excavation and bring in the big heavy equipment and you run around all the trees and you go over the roots, you've already killed it.
very
So
hard.
it sounds nice to say, but practically it doesn't really happen when the lots are so close together.
It's tough.
Just my observation.
Any other comments?
John, can I point something out? I
course.
was reading online on the ZBA's website, and it tells what the affordable requirements will be. So 9 of them will be 80%, up to 80%, and 2 will be 100, and 1 will be 110, and 1 will be 120.
Okay. Thank you.
Out of a total of how many again? What's the total? How many
13.
units total?
13 affordable.
13 affordable,
No, of total,
36 total,
36 total.
all rental.
These are going to be slab on grade.
So no basements? That's your reading? Okay, no basement. So no storage underneath.
Yeah.
Jed looked and he said there was storage.
They do have basements.
There's definitely a basement plan. I just can't read it on the screen
We'll
very.
we'll have an answer
Careful,
before,
yeah.
when we come back.
I'm looking at the section drawing. It doesn't show a full.
Okay, okay. We'll look into it.
It would be, it's kind of unusual if they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kim, do you have another comment?
Nope.
Charlotte?
No, I don't.
Okay, I looked at the site plan a little bit today when I was doing the visit here. And the green space that we see right there, most of it's going to be for the septic, the leaching field. And then to the right of the arrow there is going to be a drainage area for the road. So they're gonna dig a hole, put some grass around it, put some rocks at the bottom, and that's gonna be the drainage.
Yeah, like a swale,
Swale.
drainage basin, yep.
It's not a play area.
No, it's not a play area.
No,
Not yet.
Not in this area.
And the sidewalks are behind.
And of course, the intersection is horrible. It couldn't really be at a worse location, I don't believe. And I don't understand why at the end there's not a turnaround for fire trucks or emergency vehicles instead of
So they do, they have a.
four
they-
buildings right there.
There.
It's just a hammerhead style. It's just not a circle. So they'll be able to come in, back out, and come out that way.
Okay.
But again, all of that will be dealt with at the ZBA level when they do a referral to the fire department. The fire department can confirm all that.
And we're going to have one more chance to talk about this.
Correct. On the September 9th meeting.
Okay,
I made one other comment, John. John?
certainly.
One other item I noticed on building number 4, duplex number 4.
Okay.
The air vent coming from that wastewater system is right at the driveway going to that house.
So unit number 4, up in here.
No, down below, isn't that 4 down below?
Well, let's make sure.
No, go back where you were,
Oh, sorry.
right there. The last 2 houses on the left-hand side,
This guy.
okay? That one there,
Okay.
if you look at the drawing of number 5, there's an air vent right at the entrance to the driveway going to that house.
Okay.
For the leaching area. Okay,
Very good. So we will make sure that this is on the agenda for the next meeting as well.
all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the next thing on our agenda is the Planning Department report. Is there a report from the Planning Department?
Go ahead.
Was that the report earlier?
Oh, that was the report.
The ZBA, that was it?
Trying to remember, there was an item that we were going to talk about under the planning department report. Does anyone, do you remember? It was something you brought up? Boy, I'd forget. Oh, the joint meeting. So,
That, I mean, brought up tonight, yeah.
yes, as you know, the select board has invited you to participate in a joint meeting on September 8th. I will be meeting with the town manager tomorrow morning to talk about the agenda. If the chair is so inclined, if you want to articulate some items that you might want to talk about.
I'm sure you would be talking about short-term rentals, considering it's an ongoing hearing going on and an ongoing concern.
Okay.
So it's an opportunity for the two boards to see where they are on it.
So any suggestions, I would just call the Planning Department.
Yeah.
You can call me if you want, but,
That was the only suggestion
or you
I
can
had.
call us both.
I anticipate one of the topics that we'll likely be discussing is the potential grant funding that we might be receiving to update our local comprehensive plan. So we're crossing our fingers, we'll know approximately October whether or not we have that, that funding. And if we do, we'll obviously set out to hire a consultant and then start, developing a plan to get that done. And so likely that will be one of the topics.
I have a question. Could we talk about how we're doing on the housing production plan and how we stand with the safe harbor, safe haven with the effect of our 40Bs? Has there been any changes in that stance? I mean,
Sure.
I'm sure there's some things going on that we could be brought up.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Next thing is committee reports. Do we have any committee reports, Charlotte?
The short-term rental people have met one more time. The group is pretty much in accord that we don't want to change what's already here. We wanted to move forward, but we heard what was going on in Provincetown. The select person from there came to meet with us to say, and the most interesting thing that she had to say was really about the scale of the problem. People, it's been a common assumption that the number of short-term rentals listed on the state website for a town is only a small number, or at least a partial number, of the short-term rentals available in the town. Provincetown hired the Donahue Institute that has they're connected to UMass Boston. They have a terrific reputation for consulting with municipalities to solve municipal problems in Massachusetts. Provincetown spent I think it was like $20,000. It was an expensive or more report to find out what exactly is the situation on short-term rentals in Provincetown. And they had assumed that the 1,600 that were reported at the state was a fraction of what really existed. No, the right answer turned out to be 860, which was eye-popping to the whole panel, because we have now listed in Falmouth, we have listed some 1,588, and we've assumed that's just a small fraction. But no, it could be that the number that Scott again reported, that he has made 2 mailings now to everybody on the state website, please come and get registered with the town. And the first number who reported back to him was really a small number, but now it was like 300, but now he has 760. And it could be that we have 760 or thereabouts short-term rentals in Falmouth, and that's it. That's surprising. It much reduces the scale of the problem that this committee thinks it's dealing with. It's really a change. So that was the most important thing, I think, that we learned at our past meeting. Also, they have been regulating it in Provincetown now for about 1.5 years. Too soon to tell really how it's going. But what they found is they made really, by accident, they made a good decision in how they paced introducing regulation, because they initially increased the fee for licensing. So suddenly the people licensing by the town, and everyone who already had a license got sent a notice, and people came in and redid it. So they got a sense of the universe that they were dealing with, and people got used to the idea that it's going to be regulated. It began like an education campaign for that subset of the residents in the town. And then they added another regulation, and then finally came to passing their short-term regulation completely. So it came in stages, and that has worked out very well for them. So those were the main things we learned.
Any questions or comments on? So I have a question for you. What is their appetite for short-term rentals?
They in Provincetown?
Are they in support of them? Are they in opposition? Or?
They are pretty much where we are, except they are much smaller, geographically smaller, and by their population during the winter is very small, so that their housing issue for regular residents is different from ours. But their attitude toward what they were doing is very much like ours. They have a pattern of short-term rentals in the town. It's not the same pattern for every circumstance, but they already know kind of how people want to use their property and be allowed to use their property, and they didn't actually want to change that. They wanted to be sure that it kind of stayed like that it didn't, they too were fearful of corporatization and people now coming in and buying up several houses just to monetize them through short-term rentals. So it was really to prevent change more than to change what was going on. And that's kind of what we're doing, we think.
So the buying of corporations has not happened?
No, it has not happened. It had not already happened, and they didn't realize that either. But it hasn't happened.
In my conversation with the representative from Provincetown on the commission, they want more short-term rentals because they need the tourism to support their economy.
They certainly want to foster tourism, but I didn't get the sense from the select person that they might want more. She didn't say they didn't. I might not have picked that up from all that she had to say.
That was my understanding.
Yeah.
The gentleman that represents him is in the rental business. And he said he had an awful lot of cancellations this year. All of his regular clients from Canada canceled.
Oh, well, that's different. That's
So
not
they-
something the town did.
So they were looking for more people to come there.
Yeah.
Has their need for year-round housing declined?
No,
The other
No.
thing that they found was regulating short-term rentals didn't affect any other kind of rental or housing situation. Didn't have the effect that they thought it might have. But it's early days, so it's hard to tell. But so far, you don't get more rental housing, you don't get more long-term rental by regulating short-term rentals. Provincetown hasn't found that.
Very interesting, thank
It
you.
was. It wasn't what we thought.
Tom, do you have anything from your committee?
The CPC, we have a new administrator. Her name's Emily. She's very talented. She's already hit the ground running and fits right in. Our meeting was short. And for the Recreation Department, we talked about our new fee schedule for pickleball, basketball, and volleyball. And we continued our talks about locating an outdoor pickleball location.
Great.
Yeah, we're getting close.
Is she full-time or part-time?
It's a good question. Her hours that I don't know. Actually, I wanted to ask her that at the end of the meeting. She's she's part-time.
Part-time, okay. Thank you.
John, could I ask Jed a question?
Sure.
Jed, you were there at the short-term rental meeting. Did you have further things that we think we should share? I'm sorry, I should have asked you sooner.
No, I don't. I think I thought it was a really interesting perspective from the select woman from Provincetown. And to echo your statements, I think it was not quite eye-opening, but it was very helpful to the committee to determine, how it went in Provincetown and to get their perspective. So I thought that was a great conversation. It's a big topic, so it's likely going to take a little bit to iron out all of the details.
Yeah, but it's sort of what she had to say kind of took the heat out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You lose that sense of, oh my God, we're threatened. No, not particularly.
It helps to have information that's valid.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, one of the challenges with the short-term rental situation is you're really not certain how many you do have until you have a platform that can, or you have staff that can essentially look at those listing platforms all the time to really get an accurate count. And we just don't have that yet.
Great.
John, skipped over me.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm coming to you. Are you all set, Charlotte? Paul?
Forgot what I was going to say.
Okay.
No. I continue to attend the Water Quality Management Committee meetings, and last week there was a very detailed presentation, final presentation by the U.S. Geological Survey on the impact of the groundwater levels being discharged from the wastewater systems. And it was a very esoteric, very detailed presentation, and I didn't bother to put it in the packet today because it's somewhat confusing. The bottom line is it's going to have minimal effect, so it's not going to be a big deal. But
That's
it was a
good.
very interesting presentation.
It is interesting.
And all the other issues continue, and there's a meeting tomorrow, and I'll report next week on what's going on.
Are you going to attend the meeting tomorrow? Is it tomorrow night? For the,
Tomorrow afternoon,
for
yeah.
wastewater, tomorrow
Mhm.
afternoon, okay.
I think one of the things you may want to do is have Mr. Ravity perhaps come to the board here and talk about the issues that are really a concern that they're dealing with, so we're a little bit up to speed. Because I give little pot shots, but it might be helpful to put it on the agenda to talk about what they're discussing and how it impacts our planning department.
I can't get to the meeting tomorrow, but if you want to invite him, that'd be wonderful. If you're there.
Well, I think we need to tell them what we're looking for. We need to discuss it a little bit and give them an agenda that we want them to talk about, because it'll be all over the place if we don't do that. They're dealing with a lot of issues.
It'd be a great idea. Jim?
I have an announcement. Is it we have announcements?
No,
this
we're
purpose?
still on committee reports.
Okay, sorry,
Any other committee reports?
wrong page.
Yes, I have a committee report. The Cape Cod Commission is going to have another hearing on the solar array at Cape Cod Country Club, and it's going to be on September the 8th, I believe at 5 o'clock, Zoom meeting. So they're proposing to put more than 43,000 solar panels on the site, and the golf course will disappear. They're going to move, just a little summary, they're going to move a lot of fill around on site to the approximately 6,000 dump trucks full of fill moved around. And so what you see there, that has been there for 100 years. If this gets approved and gets built, it's going to disappear, but we're going to have a solar array. So anyway, just for the public's information, it's Thursday, September 8th, 5 o'clock. It's a Zoom meeting, and everyone's welcome to participate.
John, have people turned out to speak against it, to say that this is really a loss to the town?
They have, and I understand there's a petition, et cetera, so, but it's hard to combat solar because it's, it's a hot topic right now, and so,
It seems under attack from the federal level.
but I think that's going to be one of their biggest hurdles is they get it financed if it gets approved. So, and most times, you recommend solar would be in a abandoned gravel pit, or like we did at the landfill, somewhere out of sight, but this is going to be, if it gets approved, it's not going to be out of sight.
Right, and it's on a particularly scenic road.
Well, the scenic road, they're going to disappear. The scenic part's going to disappear. They're going to have a chain link fence separating the road from their panels, et cetera, so.
Are they being required to landscape along the road?
They're going to do a lot of planting of wildflowers
Flowers?
underneath the panels, and
I mean,
I would just, if I may, I would just caution you that this application will come back before you as a site plan review
right.
application, so I would limit the amount of discussion you have
that's a
before.
great point.
Yeah.
sorry.
And I would like to make a suggestion, that we take you out of the dark by turning the
Oh,
lights on.
yeah,
Come on, Charlotte, that's your spot.
I'm not good with those
It
things.
was John, I'm kidding. John used to do that, that's why.
I know I did. I needed
You want the
to-
reflection, don't you?
It's only for the people at home, so they can see who you are.
Okay.
So we're going to
I see you now.
do the rest of it. You want to do announcements first?
I just have one announcement, but it sounds like Jim might have one as well.
I go first? Yeah, I've been gotten back involved with the station, and we're actually running a concert there on Sunday, the 31st, from 4 to 6, and it's an ice cream social, and we're giving away free ice cream at 5 o'clock for the last hour. Ben Bills is helping me and having it there. It's just a music concert, picnic with free ice cream. No charge, open to everybody.
And where's it going to be held at?
The train, Falmouth Station, EDIC property.
Excellent. Any other announcements?
Well, this one doesn't have free ice cream, but it is free of charge. So it's an important Board of Health public hearing where they are proposing changes to the existing Title V regulations that would affect properties that are undergoing new construction, other items. I won't get into the details, but it's September 3rd, so it's next week at 5:30 at the Falmouth Senior Center. And it's in relation to innovative alternative septic system requirements. So it's an important public hearing that the Board of Health is holding. And so we're trying to do our best to spread the word.
September 3rd at 5:30?
At 5:30, yes, at the Senior Center.
Senior Center, yep.
Yeah, that is an important topic. Thank you. Do we have any future agenda items?
We do not.
Get through what we got.
General correspondence?
Just this guy. So in your packets is a letter from the Cape Cod Commission indicating amendments to Chapter D of their regulations, which deals with development agreement regulations. So as you may know, we have a development agreement with the Cape Cod Commission. Actually, the EDIC does on behalf of the town for the tech park. There's a lot of language in here. It's similar to a zoning bylaw. I've reached out to the commission to see if we can get you sort of a summary of what changes were made, so that you can Cliff Notes type review. So when we do get them, we'll provide them in your packets, but for your reading.
Thank you. Any other general correspondence? No? Okay, our next meeting, September 9th,
You got it?
with the selectmen.
Isn't the joint meeting the 8th?
8th or 9th? What is it?
So technically, your next meeting will be September 8th, the joint meeting, and then your regularly scheduled meeting will be September 9th.
Back to back.
Correct?
It's going to be on the 9th?
Your regularly scheduled meeting, yes.
The 8th and
Okay,
the
when's the joint meeting?
The 8th,
The 8th.
day
We're
before.
going to have an agenda?
Yes, we will have that agenda to you shortly.
What time on the 8th?
All right.
I believe it would be 6:30, but we'll confirm that tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you for correcting me on that.
I move adjournment.
Second?
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.